Thanks a lot. Uh, at the outset, it's a fairly interesting panel. So, in fact, four of us are Malayalis on this panel, and there is Kalyan from outside Kerala. Although Afsal also works outside Kerala, and we just discussed this just before the panel when we moved into the room. That we are also a mustache-less panel in Kerala, which is the land of mustaches, so to say. So what we will do is, in terms of a structure, each of the speakers will speak for around 5 to 7 minutes on their take on the topic. And then subsequently, as let's see how time stands, we will ask them a few questions. And then we will open it up to the audience for questions. As I said, the time frame, I don't expect a long Q&A session at the end, but feel free to connect with them subsequently and ask questions. I think we'll start with Kalyan, who is a guest here. The rest of us are Malayalis. So let's hear from Kalyan on his fund and what they do.
Good morning and thank you. Very quick intro about what we do. We've got two mainline verticals from Springforth Capital. One is we've got the private equity fundraising arm where we focus on 10 to 50 million, focused on sectors of healthcare, pharma, consumption and logistics, a little bit of IT. Then we have got another vertical where we take positions in the early stage companies, particularly in the areas of food agri, backed by my other operating partners who have got long vintage from ITC, Papa John's, Gati, etc. Actually that also sets the kind of context as to why we have chosen this kind of a path. A lot of times when early stage companies approach us, so we find more frequently than not that it's not just about capital. While everybody believes that it's about funds, but it's got a lot to do about the fundamentals as well. Application of funds is extremely important. What startups most of the times need is a lot of mentorship, guidance. In other words, it's also called smart money. And hence, we take a very operating kind of positions in the companies where we get into early stage. Now very quickly on the topic itself as to what we believe are the basics. I think enough literature has flown around in the recent past on what are the basics needed, but I'll try to sort of give you an overview from a capital market point of view that what are some of the basics that startups essentially need. In the very first bucket, you have got the hygiene, such as you need to obviously have an innovative product which continuously upgrade itself. And at some point of time, it should convert into revenue model and scalability, etc. So, which I think today's program is very well set out, which covers a lot of these points, and you'll get to hear more. Then the second bucket where I want to lay some specific emphasis is that Mr. Sivalenka was just telling that there are 3,000 startups which have just not been discovered. The fact is, the startups have been around all through in India, right? So today they're called startups, but you've got umpteen number of examples as to how many companies, but they lack the ecosystem. So these, but always those basics and fundamentals of how to run a business still remain. Lot of them today in Koramangala are called startups because they have got an extremely good capital market thinking in their mind. But the bad news is that a lot of times it's just the capital market program. It's not about operational excellence. It's not about scalability. It's not about some of those fundamentals. They just are there to project manage, get into that spiral. What do you need? I need a strong ops team. How do you get the ops team? I'll hire them. How do you hire them? I need an HR manager. How will you get a good HR manager? I'll raise capital to hire an HR manager. So that it gets into that loop of project management and not really focuses on some of the very fundamentals of a business. So that's one very important thinking right from the beginning one need to inculcate. Thirdly, in the context of it, I would say there are many examples. Goa is a great example. Hyderabad Tea Hub is a great example. Many sectors have come up very well, and I don't see a reason why Kerala shouldn't be coming up. It's very important for the startups to network well. It's a double-edged sword to work with people whom you know, but you should know how to finally balance that. because most of the fundraising happens from the friends and family in the first round because it's more about that. So, and I think also importantly, see, cultural transformation, talking about that, uh, so you definitely will go through one round before you actually arrive there, but during this process, one very important thing is before you all try to be yourself, and you'll find your sweet spot, and will translate into your product, into your teams, etc. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Before I start, I just want to have a show of hands in terms of how many of you are entrepreneurs or planning to start up. It's a good sign. And how many of you are planning to invest, or there are investors in this room? Okay, yeah, that's a gap. So definitely we need to bring more people who understand what startups are, and then also help them de-risk the investments in startups. So when I looked at the topic, basics, how does startups come into action? First thing is an idea. That's what most of us start up with. So in our case also, in Deliver also, there were 3 of us who were classmates during our MBA class. Common bond was we were Mallus, so we used to spend a lot of time together talking about stuff which we can do. And basically, people who are from Kerala are very open to doing different kinds of trades. Traditionally, Kerala has been a trading community, even going back 1,000+ years. We used to be a very good trading post. So that's what every person who wants to start up in Kerala thinks about. What can we sell? So we identify products, then we identify people who can buy those products. So it's all about then demand and supply. You look at things which you can sell to people who need them. So we also started the same way. We identified that there was a need in terms of getting the neighborhood stores connected to the consumers in the same neighborhood. At that time, there wasn't any hyper-local player who was doing this. Even this word was not discovered at that time when we started in 2010. So we said that we will connect the restaurants and the bakeries and the grocery stores in the neighborhood with the customers. So that was the first idea. And then we started tweaking on it. We said that we will, because they don't have the expertise in doing customer service. They don't operate call centers. They don't know how to speak to customers. So we said that, okay, we need to set up that. Then we said that they don't have the expertise to go and do deliveries. They don't have that infrastructure. Maybe they have people who are doing it one-off. So we said we'll have to set up that as well. So we realized that we had to build that ecosystem for our suppliers to connect to their consumers. So in any marketplace, that's what happens. Even in case of a startup, maybe your customers are not aware of their needs, or there is a need, but it's not a burning need. But if you are able to give them a solution and also bring the options for those solutions closer to them, they would be ready to pay. So this idea, we wanted to make sure that it's not an idea which is not scalable. So we looked at the opportunities to scale. We identified various sectors where we can go into with this particular idea. It was about then delivering products as well as services. So we started with products. We said we'll do food, flowers, and all that stuff. Then we identified dry cleaning and laundry as a service. So that was not there. So it is about then saying that you need to be open towards the sectors which you want to look into, and also make sure that it goes through the same supply chain or the process which you have built. So that evolved into a product. When we started up in 2010, the word product was not assigned to what we were doing. That is what now everyone is talking about. If you go to investors, if you do pitch, they'll say, what's your product? So we realized that what we are doing as a service packaged into a process was what was called product in investor parlance. So we then started fine-tuning the product. The product is just not the service or the app. That's where most of the startups now miss out when they are going ahead. They build a very good app. They say that I have an iOS app and an Android app. It's not only about technology. It requires a lot of thought into building the backend. That is where it's like the tip of the iceberg. The customers only get to see your apps on the Play Store, or they experience the app when they are ordering. For example, in Big Basket, when you're ordering groceries, you just see the list of products and then you place the order. But there are at least 20 people who work in the backend to get that product packed and shipped to you. So that means you have to go back and set up that backend system, which involves, as Kalyan was saying, a lot of operational processes as well as people. So in most of the startups, that's where what I've seen is the founders are reluctant to get involved. You have to fold up your sleeves, get into dirtying your hands and learning how your customers want the product or the service to be delivered. So in our case, we were the first delivery boys. After getting out of IIM, working in companies like Philips, HUL and all, we were going and doing deliveries to customers, standing in front of their door, getting sometimes real bad words for being late. And in spite of that, we were able to understand the psyche of a customer from thinking from the shoes of a delivery boy. So that helped us bring in delivery boys and be very, 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 very empathetic to their needs. That's how we were able to build a team of about 550 delivery boys in span of 4 years. We were the largest in that space when we sold out to Big Basket. Now this express delivery team, I have a team of about 2,200 delivery boys. We clearly understand the pains of a delivery boy and what the customer wants from them. So it is about then living with your customers. Just don't release your apps. You have to go and work with them, see how they use that. The last point which most of the startups in getting these basics right miss out is getting their finances right. When we talk about funding, all of us go and do pitches to investors. We are very happy getting positive response from investors, then we get in euphoria, then when you get a term sheet, you just hit cloud 9, you say that, wow, I've done it. And then you work on getting that money inside. Once the money comes in, what I've seen across most of the startups, even the glorified ones, is that they don't have a clue of how they're going to spend it, and then they recklessly spend. Unfortunately, that's the reason why most of them reaching the runway much before they could have gone with that money and then start scrambling again for funds, and then they look at cost cutting and all that stuff. So if you have got your basics right, unique cost of economics for every order which you do, every transaction which you do, if you got it right and you have very good tight control on your finance, maybe it's important for you to bring in a very good finance person into your team if the co-founding team doesn't have that skill. Because it's not your money, it's investors' money. You need to make sure that you are spending it really well and then giving value back to them. In the process, you would also obtain value, and that's what we were able to do, and we were able to successfully exit. Because we were not burning money. That also is a word which actually psyched me when I heard it for the first time. What's your burn? Investors ask. It's literally like that. You're burning money. So coming from a very I would say middle income family, burning money is something which we were not used to. All three of us were from Kerala and we have not seen this kind of stuff. So we did not even think about that in a way that we are burning our investment. We were very, very, very frugal, Spartan in terms of setting up offices, looking at what we need to give, how to make sure we build a team. So those are all the basic things which you need to take care before even you say that you have done a very good startup. So it's not only about talking about it, it's about making sure your house is clean, you are able to control it well, and at the same time motivate your employees and take them forward along with you.
Good morning. So we've heard from the investor, we've heard from the startup CEO. Let me just put an incubator perspective into this. We are also a nodal agency for the government. So some of those points which they're really good points for me to quote tomorrow onwards, because there are some of these points where we get battered on. This is like getting your basics right, the hygiene factors, or you talk about the financial discipline, not to spread out too much before you do this. These are the fundamental errors that we have been working with startups and what we have seen. At least in the last 2 years where I have been directly involved with almost all the startups that are incubated with us. These are some of the basic things that we tried to put across to the startups. So like many a times we go ahead with this ambition of something, we call it as something like a CEO syndrome that which comes in. Then I've seen many of these startups spend too much on their hard-earned investor money or the They take loan even and then put it on to non-productive areas like furnishing your offices and stuff like that. Finally end up with a need of a second round of investment or not being able to pay their loans, and I've had people coming to me asking for the addresses of all those people. So there again, that part of the discipline takes care of it. So fundamentally there has to be a discipline, business discipline, as Kalyan was saying. The business basics remain the same. Whether we call it the cycle shortens or not, the business basics remain the same. The operational efficiencies have to be attained. You need to be very tight on your spendings. You need to be very managed on your finances, so that part anyway has been spoken about. The other part that we, as an incubator, we've learned the hard way is there are certain areas where you can scale up. Like as you said, like you make a product out of your services. So there needs to be something which is sellable. There needs to be something which is scalable. So this thought process, if it does not get injected into the minds of the entrepreneur at the beginning itself, then probably you're going to have companies who are 3 years, 4 years, 5 years who are still not able to find their space. And probably there's no incubator who can sustain you for more than that. Then the incubator starts clogging. And that is one problem we've personally faced, where the incubator has been clogged. But people are not able to leave the incubator, they still can't face the real world. So then there are two ways. You can hard push them out, so which is not what you've done, because your entire last 4-5 years work you're going to throw it off. Or you can still keep them in, but at the risk of keeping the other new ideas out. So that's a hard decision which the incubator will have to take. So now what we've done is we've put in a level of screening where we call entrepreneurs, we call investors into an expert committee, they evaluate it, and then put this ideas into it. It's not to screen out people, but it is to get the right tone in. So that you have these people always, the fire in the belly going, saying that I have a plan where I want to really take it forward. So to me, basics is like one, that the operational financial disciplines across. Second is the whole mindset of that I'm an entrepreneur, that I'm not working on everything to be supported on me. We might support because the government wants to create a entrepreneurial society. For various reasons, it is taken as a strategic decision. But then entrepreneur is a person driven from within and not from outside. It burns inside. So we'd like to see a person who is pushing him hard, and we'd like to support him, rather than we lighting the fire underneath and then he going along with it. And I think most of the crowd here in Kerala would have been listening to us time and again saying what we do in Kerala Startup Mission or the state, as a state government agency. The risk of repetition, but still I'll say that we are working with school students to create that DIY culture, or trying to create that scientific thing. The scientific temper that was already there because of the Shastra Sahitya Parishad and other activities. We are now giving them more devices which they can play on. We touch base with them at a college level where we set up boot camps that are 137 already there. And the good thing that has happened is the Technology University has brought all these engineering colleges together under one roof, so we can have one place to drive the whole thing across. Entrepreneurship is now becoming a minor in the technical university, so the guys can take it as part of their curriculum. You don't have to break your course and do it. Some of the school dropouts have been excellent, but necessarily doesn't mean that you have to be a school dropout to be an entrepreneur. Corollary doesn't work every time. But of course, I'm not against it, but I'm also not an entrepreneur. That's why I'm in a government official seat rather than in an entrepreneurial seat. But that is one. We work with some of the corporates who help us create this ecosystem, like Intel helps us with the challenge, EY helps us with creating an accelerator and running it. We work with funding agencies, like we have state funding agencies like KSRDC, KFC, who are supporting the startups. We also work with other agencies who are willing to come over and have a look at our startups. Over the last couple of years, we brought in quite a few of those accelerators and VCs. They've seen it, and a lot of feedback that we get is, one, communication. Your guys are not able to present their product to us. They're not confident, they've not made it crisp. You're still beating around the bush. So that's one area of very hard facts that has been thrown across to us. Second is, you're not ready for it, or you're too old for it. And one of those guys came back and told me that if you are 3 months to 6 months, if they can't make a prototype or an MVP or get a first client this thing, then I think we'll have to have a relook at the whole idea. So I think this might vary, I'm not generalizing, but then these are the feedbacks that we have got when we exposed our people to various VCs. And of course, communication is one, the product readiness or the idea thing is one. The third is they have not thought of a business model, a proper business model. Now, these are the areas we have been trying to work with various mentors. We are trying to get people as mentors into it. And one-to-one, we are connecting them with the sectoral thing. Yeah, of course, one more thing is, you are a technology guy. They've got a good technology product that doesn't make a business sense to me. So the sector stands apart and the technology stands apart. So these are the few feedbacks we have. So our attempt when we've approached to all these agencies, like be it VCCIRCLE or all the other agencies to bring in mentors is, can we look out for more mentors, more sessions where startups can get into these people, talk to them, probably get a few hard facts across their face, and then try and see that, okay, this is the way we can correct it. And the incubator definitely does not have all the answers. We have not done it ourselves, and because then I would have been running a business of my own. So we need people who have done the business to come and tell people, okay, this is the way I ran it, and this is probably the way you can find your way. I'd like to more listen to on this, and if there are any questions, I'll take it. So.
Day before yesterday, I participated in an incubator mentoring session at the Rajagiri College. Rajesh was there, and so he'll have to forgive me if couple of things which I say he would have heard then. But I feel they are appropriate here. At that time, I was given, in my session, I was asked to say to talk about the knowns and the unknowns which a startup has to face. So what I said there was, the knowns are, it is very difficult to do business or to do anything in Kerala. That's known, isn't it? Everybody seems to know, inverted commas. Even your well-wishers tell you, go across to Coimbatore, or go across the border to Tamil Nadu. Somehow that is supposed to be a paradise, Don't do it here. A state where 10.5 hours load shedding is paradise. So across the border from Kerala, things are okay, things are better. And what is across the border? The World Bank has a study, ease of doing business study. 175 countries participate in this study. Last, I recall reading was India was ranked 148th. Below Rwanda. Have you heard of Rwanda? Some of you will recollect the genocide there, the Tutsi genocide. That's Rwanda. And in the ease of doing business study, India ranks below Rwanda. And that's what our well-wishers are telling us, saying, go across the border of Kerala because we are part of India, of course. We are also in the 148, by the way. So nothing much to really choose in that sense. That's what I want to tell you. First, get rid of this. So this thing, that there is some kind of place, somewhere else. We have that big problem here in Kerala. That you can't do things here in Kerala. My personal experience of the last 25 years is, you can do anything. You can build a world-class manufacturing organization in Kerala. I have done it, so I'm telling you this. And I had no miracles helping me, no great government support, nothing of the sort. I mean, not that there was no support, but what I'm trying to say is there was nothing special. I was not given a special exemption from Attimari and Nokukuli and all this stuff. None of those things. As much applicable to all the other problems which are supposed to afflict Kerala, just like the law of gravity, is applicable to all of us. So I think more than the known and unknown, I would say, another division is the problems which are out there and the problems which are inside our mind. And the problems inside us are the biggest hurdle, things holding you back as entrepreneur. We like to complain so much about so many things outside. You just go somewhere else. See the congestion, see the pollution, see the fact that just to get from point A to point B, you take longer time than to get from Trivandrum to Kollam. Okay. So it's so easy to externalize all problems and keep complaining about various things, but most of the time the problems are inside us. Mr. Shivashankar, I wish that he had more time to elaborate on what he said. The So I said, to return to my Rajagiri thing, I was supposed to talk about the knowns. So the knowns are, it is very difficult to do business in Kerala. This is not the right place. You must go. Sensible people will go to Tamil Nadu or Karnataka or somewhere else. And what are the unknowns about Kerala? That actually it is one of the best places to do business. As I discovered after 25 years of working here. Whether it is manufacturing, whether it is services, whether it is any one of these services, this is one of the best places. Now why? In the introductory speech, somebody mentioned about the urbanization, and it was almost, we got the sense that this is a metro phenomenon. What is urbanization? The 2011 decennial census says India's urbanization is about 30%. Kerala's urbanization is more than 45%, higher than China. There is only one state in this country which has 7 cities of more than 1.5 million population. No prizes for guessing which is that state. Kerala, with a population of 33 million, 2.5% the population of India, 1% the area of India, the only state which has 7 cities of more than 1.5 million. Now what is so great? Nothing great about magic number 7 or anything. What I'm trying to say is urbanization is a phenomenon which is well distributed in this state. It is not all concentrated in one mega urban agglomeration and the rest of the state being boondocks. This is not the case here. You know, there was a very funny mail which was circulated showing, apparently the Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, made a speech made some very derogatory remarks about Kerala during the election. I mean, and he was probably given these facts by some hardworking research team and all that. The unfortunate part of it was the comparison showed everywhere Kerala was about 18 positions ahead of Gujarat. Out of the 20 factors, parameters which were compared, in 18 of them Kerala was number one. Now why I am saying this is, see, entrepreneurship is all about something which happens inside the mind. We talk about ecosystems, we talk about things being favorable. I started my entrepreneurship career when nobody even spoke about the word venture capital. Nobody spoke about angel investors. All these were new concepts which we heard later on. So from somewhere I found investment, that's what entrepreneurs do. But to start, you must believe you can do it, you know. You must believe that you are starting off in a right place, in a good place, in a place which is okay to start. If you start off thinking, I wish I was, somewhere in Koramangala, or I wish I was somewhere in some industry park in Pune, or in some salubrious green part of Mumbai or something like that, you know, instead of being happy where you are, you know. So I think there are two parts. I mean, the thing which I want to leave you with is, the big secret about Kerala is the number of successful entrepreneurs who are functioning here, who started here, who have prospered here, and who are growing here. I remember many years ago, this Dhanam magazine, when they brought out their first early issues, they brought out what they call the Dhanam 100. They featured 100 entrepreneurs who were successful. So I wrote to Mr. Kalyan Abraham, who was the editor. I didn't know him. I didn't know him then. I wrote to him saying, Mr. Kalyan, you have let out Kerala's most closely guarded secret, that we have successful entrepreneurs. Mr. Kalyan Abraham's reply was, Mr. Balagopal, we are bringing out an Onam bumper issue in which it will be the Dhanam 500, another 500 entrepreneurs. Now the interesting thing was, I hadn't heard of most of them. I'm a member of the Chamber of Commerce. So what I'm trying to tell you is ecosystem also, you know, one of the most powerful elements of an ecosystem is the peer group. It's very important for entrepreneurs to come together and join platforms like the Chamber of Commerce and TIE and, you know, your CII and any other industry bodies come together, share experiences, because that reinforcement is one of the most important strengths which entrepreneurs can give one another. And enough of that is not happening in Kerala. Thank you.
Thanks, Balu. So actually, this is my third consecutive day with Mr. Balagopal, and you can imagine how brainwashed I am. And to also set records right, or rather EY, our consulting operation came into Kerala 5.5 years back because of one such session with Mr. Balagopal, and he had convinced me that I was born to do consulting in Kerala. So having said that, I think we don't have time for too many questions to the panel, which we can do internally. I'll quickly sum up and open it to the audience, which I guess all of you are keen to ask questions. See, in terms of some of these basics, you've heard Afzal, you've heard an investor, you've heard Jaishankar. See, there is a common thread in some of these things, getting your finances right, of course, getting your product idea right. One point which some of them mentioned and which I want to reiterate is about the team. See, during your startup phase, don't overly worry about a lot of financial projections, because during your first 5 years, at least in my experience, I have seen financials fluctuate. I have seen your entire business models pivot here and there. But make sure you have a great team. Make sure you have a team which will stand with you and which will stand by you. And it's a sensible team that you can take forward. So teaming is something that I just want to add. Otherwise, this is probably I would say this is the golden period of entrepreneurship in Kerala. We have reached that stage where there is awareness. There is a social acceptance to entrepreneurship as a career. So, your parents are not getting high blood pressure when you say that, you want to drop out of college or you want to start an organization, which perhaps would have been the case, maybe 20 years back. Some things that you need to look for is, see, entrepreneurship is also not something for every individual in the world. So you have to look into yourself, see whether you have the passion. As Jaishankar said, we can't light passion in you. So if the fire is there in you, we can of course flame it further, we can help it to fuel it further. But that basic fire needs to be there in you. The other point is, which I've heard a lot of people say and which I've seen myself, is if you have a great idea, it's not difficult to get money today. And I speak from the Kerala context. I have seen what KSIDC does, I've seen what KFC does, I've seen what a lot of angels are doing. It's not difficult to get money, but the responsibility to get that money is yours. If the bank is not giving you money, part of that responsibility is your ability of explaining your idea, or rather your disability of not being able to give the potential of that idea. That onus needs to remain with you, and you can't blame the ecosystem for some of those things. Thanks.
Thank you.